Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Note to Self. Welcome to the very first episode of 2025. I have actually intended on recording one of these much sooner. We're at the beginning of February right now, and all of January to me felt like this energy that was hurry up and wait. I had such clear, defined goals and such momentum and inspiration inside of me. I mean, I still do, but I didn't get the chance to take the actions that I wanted to take or to sit down and record podcasts, create content. There was a lot of movement and shifting happening in my environment and family things and whatnot. So it finally feels like the year and the intentions that I've set have gotten started as of last week. Last week was also the Lunar New Year, so I feel like it's on theme, on brand anyways, to just have that reset. And so I feel very inspired to be sitting with you here today. And I'm really excited about sharing more that's to come this year because I am going fully nomadic again, which is so exciting. I absolutely love travel, and there's nothing that inspires me more than being in new places, different environments, the different cultures, flavors, colors, people, nature. Just travel itself lights me up in such a way that gets me so inspired to create. So I'm really looking forward to what this next year holds and sharing with you all more consistently. So this episode today, I really want to dive into the topic of hiding because I feel like it's something that I got so clear on myself that I was doing in 2024. And it's just something that has to go. So, what I mean by hiding is that energy around playing small, recognizing where you're dimming your light, or recognizing where you're not fully tapping into your potential. And of course, this creeps up on us. I mean, we're human beings and we get caught in comfort zones, or we just don't really have clarity around what some of our subconscious fears might be. And so today I want to share some tips on how to break free from this because I feel like hiding doesn't serve anyone and it does not serve this world. And we are all set up for huge success this year, but what it requires of us is to play big, is to really just go for it. So first and foremost, when it comes to living your life fully expressed, is you have to own your desires fully. So I want to ask you this question. It's going to be a very simple question, but it's quite profound. And it is, what do you actually want for your life? Sometimes this question, for me anyways, or I feel like for 2024, I felt like I couldn't quite answer it. And it felt like a question that seemed so simple in my mind, but it was so big and so vast. Like I knew there's a bunch of things that I want, but what do I truly want? Like what's the next big vision? What is the next big vision that I have for myself and for my life? And if that question is feeling a little bit sticky or foggy in some regard, another question is, if I knew I was fully supported, what would I allow myself to want? If I knew that I was fully supported, what would I allow myself to want? I feel like that one for me really helps me to dig in because it's like, if I was fully supported, meaning fear, like my fears or worst case scenarios, doubts, none of that stuff existed, what would I allow myself to want? And I would want myself, or I would allow myself to dream big and bring that next vision to life. So as you're listening to this, again, I encourage you, jot those questions down if you're not driving or anything like that, or just come back to this podcast and remember that this is a fantastic meditation or journal prompt, it's a question to explore to really open up new potentials for yourself. And the next question or place that I want to go after that is to ask yourself, where might you be shrinking? Where might you be dimming your life? Because awareness is key. We have to know where we feel hesitant to show up, hesitant to speak our truth, or hesitant to take action, to know what the work is that will allow us to liberate ourselves and be free. Because once we know what our next big vision is, our dreams, our desires, if we're no longer holding ourselves back, if we're aware of what our holding back looks like, what our shrinking looks like, where that occurs, it's not going to stand a chance, right? Because once there's awareness, we bring light to it, and then we have a power to shift it. So I'm going to share a personal example of ways in which I was shrinking or hiding last year. And what I would say is that it was definitely social media. Like, I got super comfortable sharing on social media, like through my YouTube journey and Instagram and whatnot. And last year, I just felt like some changes or some adjustments, maybe some boundaries, like some things needed to be adjusted inside of me. And also, I really wanted to like increase my production or increase the amount of support I could provide through my channels. And so I feel like last year was a year of experimenting and brainstorming when it came to sharing, of understanding what type of levels of privacy I wanted. And I also just allowed myself to live in the moment a little bit more, I will say. So oftentimes on weekends, I just wouldn't look at my phone very much at all, or I wouldn't really be too much on social media. And that was really healing for me, because I felt like through presence, I was able to understand or see different aspects of myself, like where I might be hiding. So I was holding back when it came to sharing my voice on social media, or sharing my voice on my podcast, or sharing videos on my YouTube channel. And for me, I feel like there was a lot to look at. There was a judgment that I held around, you know, if I'm not traveling, if I'm staying put, like, are people still going to be interested in what I have to share? Or I feel like I'm going through different identity shifts, such as being in a relationship versus being single for so long, and not being fully nomadic anymore. Fun stories. I'm back to being fully nomadic again. But I was really questioning myself around what messages do I want to share? And because I didn't have clarity, that's where I didn't take action. So back up to the first question there around, like, what do you truly want? Getting clarity on that will naturally just release some of the blocks around hiding and resisting yourself, quieting yourself. So the next point that I have here is to shift the fear of judgment. So a common reason for playing small is fearing what others think. We're human beings. This is natural that we might fall into different ways of being concerned about that, but people's opinions are not something that we can control. All we can control is our internal world and how we're, reflecting and relating in that. For me, I recognize that the fear of judgment, for me, it's almost like it highlights my internal fears or insecurities about myself. I can recognize that I don't feel scared to, let's say, be on the internet or be visible in that way. I've worked through fears like that because I know that you can't control the comment section. You can't control what other people are going to think of you and whatnot. But I've found that when I have a fear of judgment, it is almost like I can identify whose voice or who it is that I'm fearing judgment from, whether that's like a specific person or it is maybe a specific group of people. And in doing that work and recognizing, oh, okay, so I'm feeling a little bit insecure and it's almost like it's coming from this particular person's eyes. How can I shift that? How can I free myself? How can I find okayness, safety, and security in the idea that they might have a judgment about it, right? So let's say you want to start sharing about your spiritual business online. I feel like that's something like when people are stepping into more of their gifts, like maybe that is Reiki healing, or maybe that is hypnosis, like something, or Kambo. I mean, Kambo is a great example for me anyways. Like when you come to a modality that the rest of the world might still be warming up to, yeah, natural that you know that you're going to be highlighting or bringing awareness to different alternative forms of healing, of ways of being. And that might rub against other people's belief systems, but there's so much power in doing that. An example that's coming to me that I feel called to share right now is that I did have fears like this when I first shared about ayahuasca online on my YouTube channel. I had no idea how the internet would react. And I got a variety of different energies, different types of comments and whatnot. But my healing and the profound shifts and life-changing experiences that I had through that medicine, like there was no way that I couldn't share. So in that way, it just felt so true to me that I had to share. And what reflections I got were interesting. I've had a couple of people reach out to me, some people like in person, even too, like friends of mine who said, when you first started talking about this stuff, like talking about ayahuasca, these plant medicines, I I had so many judgments. I was like, why would she do that? Like, what is she even talking about? That's so wild. That's so crazy. And then years later, or however much time later, they came to me and said, I get it. I get it. Either maybe they literally drank the tea, or maybe they've had their own different types of awakenings, or maybe they've just opened their perspective and challenged their own belief systems through time, that going down to Central South America and drinking a sacred Amazonian tea can change your life. So very interesting. Like, I share that story because even though you might be feeling resistance from the people around you, whether that judgment is something that, people have vocalized, or if it's just a fear that you have in your own mind, if you feel called to share, it's yours to share. Trust it. You never know. And those reflections from people are some of my favorites, because it shows me that whatever it triggered up in them in those times, it started a process for them. It started a process for them that allowed them to open up. And again, they didn't have to, drink ayahuasca and whatnot, but maybe they just opened themselves up to listening to people share different ways that they've healed, or people sharing about being brave and trying something new. There's all sorts of lessons that people can take from you just sharing your own unique truth. So, when it comes to those fears, sometimes we need to reprogram some limiting beliefs, right? I think we're all familiar with that work of the limiting beliefs. I want to share like some of the most natural narratives that come up when we're breaking free from the hiding pattern. So some of these are, I don't want to outshine others, success isn't safe, or who am I to do this? Right? Do any of those sound familiar to you guys? They definitely sound familiar to me. I feel like for me, it's always been about like finding safety in expressing myself to a new level. Like when I think about expressing myself to a new level, it feels like this energy that comes from my heart, it comes from my chest. It's almost like I'm expanding wings or something. Reminds me of my tattoo. I have a tattoo on my arm that says volare, which is Italian to fly or flying. So I think about that. I feel like that tattoo has like created new meaning for myself just in this podcast. But it's really this energy of like breaking free of the straitjacket and letting myself shine, letting my light through. So when it comes to reprogram limiting beliefs, like one thing I want to tell you guys is that we'll always have limiting beliefs. So don't feel like you have to catch every single one and like write them all down and, make sure they're all gone before you share. And like the big ones that need to be reprogrammed, they will present themselves to you. So just based on some of the narratives that I've shared with you, new affirmations that will help wire in positive beliefs around sharing could look like, it's safe for me to share. It's safe for me to shine. It's safe for me to speak from my heart. The more I step into my power, the more I inspire others. So if you've got some sticky limiting beliefs, write them out. Again, it doesn't have to be all of them, but write the big ones out and then choose a statement to counteract that and start to look for evidence of that new safety, that new way of being, and start to integrate those feelings. So the next step from that would naturally be to start taking up space, starting to embody that version of you that is free, that has spread their wings, that is so ready to make the big dreams on their heart happen. So how do we make this expansion happen? Like, how do we actually like feel those things when the beliefs have felt so sticky? Like, what do we actually do? And so some of the things that we can do naturally is to visualize, is to practice seeing ourselves differently, right? Things that I've very much mentioned on this podcast, things that if you're listening to this podcast, you're probably familiar with, right? So starting to imagine yourself, maybe putting yourself into a meditation, imagining that you're free, right? Starting to feel those feelings in your body. I feel like it's very important. And for me, I said it feels like it's coming from my heart, my chest, like I'm kind of expanding wings. For you, it could feel totally different. It could feel like your crown chakra is opening up really wide and or your throat chakra, right? Like wherever you feel that in your body, wherever you might feel that tension or that inhibition, start to practice a feeling of bigness, of expansion, of taking up space where you've tried to close or hide. That's going to be super powerful for yourself. And some other like physical things that you can do is to practice holding yourself powerfully, like in conversations with others, like sit confidently, stand confidently, just practice feeling strong and secure in your body when you are speaking, right? If you are in a leadership position of any kind, practice really leading with that body language, and that's going to be very powerful for you. Naturally, too, taking action will allow resistance to shift. So in that too, what I want to say is that fear will never fully disappear, but courage is what is built through action. So let's say you're leading, right? And you're standing confidently and you feel nervous or vulnerable about sharing something, but it's so on your heart to share. Commit to it. Commit to it. Even if it feels like it's bold, even if it feels like it's not that big, but it's a big deal to you, share, right? Practice. Start to get comfortable with taking the action that you feel in your intuition, in your heart is right? That take that action that allows you to step into your light, step into your bigness. And the more and more that you do that, you will release the fear. You will shift resistance, and a fear will, like I said, fear never fully disappears, but you've got to recognize like where it's stopping you from shining your light. Because nobody is happy dimming themselves. I know there's been aspects of myself that I feel like have been calling for my attention, that I've been dimming because I've been navigating fear or resistance in different ways. And like I said, we can't take that energy into 2025 because we came here for big things. This year has big energy to it, and I want us all to make our dreams a reality. I will continue to remind you of that your dreams, those desires on your heart, they wouldn't be there if they weren't meant for you to walk out. So you are the person who is meant to play big, who is so capable of making these things happen. So in addition to moving through resistance with action, right? I think when it comes to action taking, you'll know what your specific actions are. If not, journal or meditate, inquire internally about what that could be, and just start to make the moves. Even if it feels like a mountain, take the first step, take the second step. People literally physically climb mountains every single day. And when they look up, it depends if they like love hiking and stuff, but when they look up, it looks like a huge feat, right? It looks like a huge thing for them to do, but step by step, it all gets done. Step by step, they make it there. And step by step, you will make it there, but you've got to take the steps. So the next tip that I have is to surround yourself with expanders. So we often stay small because we're surrounded by people who reinforce our limitations. So this this is something I know that we're aware of, but we can't always like immediately shift our environment. Like, let's say you're living with your parents right now and you know that they have very different beliefs about what's possible for you. It might not feel so easy to like find expanders in every single day, but the beautiful thing is now we've got the internet and we've got things like YouTube podcasts, even like listening to this podcast. You don't have to physically expand yourself or physically surround yourself with expanders if it's not quite possible for you, like geographically, but go to the places, seek out the places where you feel expansion happening. For me, I feel like I can always find expansion through YouTube, different podcasts, and just people who I feel magnetically drawn to. I feel like whenever, this is personal, but like whenever I feel like, oh, I just love their messaging, or like I can't like not finish this entire video because what they're saying is really ringing true for me, trust that, because there's things for you to learn. I know for myself too, along my journey, there's been moments in time where I felt super magnetized to a specific person, a leader, perhaps in some way, a mentor, and I learned everything I needed to learn from them. And then it's almost like the magnetism disappeared, or they left my life in some way, or, you know, I moved on to something else. And I feel like, to me, that's a sign that the integration occurred, that I was magnetized to that person to learn things, and I learned them, and then they fall away. I mean, I say that about like expanders, but I think we can all relate to having different relationships in our life too, because some are for a season, some are for a reason, and some are for a lifetime. And we can recognize perhaps that some relationships from the past, they might have been for that season because there was a big lesson to learn, just as an example. But again, if you can't geographically find those expanders around you, they are there, and I'm encouraging you to go seek them out online. Because yeah, I know for me, like when I first started my YouTube channel, like I wanted to make friends. I started my YouTube channel to meet people, to make connections, and that was like really such a heart-led journey. So also, if you feel like starting a YouTube channel, go for it. It's never too late, really. Like, I want to say that too. And then the next tip that I have for you is to rewrite the narrative around playing big. So some people naturally may fear that stepping into their full power means losing people, being judged, or experiencing burnout. Right? So this is where we get into the subconscious territory, where maybe there's resistance to actually playing big because there are some fears that are stopping you, right? That are creating behaviors like procrastination or not fully going for it because there's a fear there that you might lose people or that you might be judged. We want to dig those things out. We want to create a new narrative. So an example could be, playing big isn't about working harder. Playing big isn't about losing people, or playing big isn't about burnout. It's about allowing myself to be seen, valued, and supported. Shining my light allows myself to be seen, to express myself fully, to be free, right? So rewrite the narrative of playing big, right? And rewrite it in a way that allows you to release some of those subconscious or somewhat conscious fears or resistance and step into your power, right? It's about allowing yourself to live this life without inhibitions that have you feeling dim and small and not going for it. Again, we're not happy when we're not going for it, right? We feel so good when we wake up and we're like, yeah, I'm totally being that person for myself. I know that's how I feel. Like when I wake up and I get a good start to my morning, like I'm in my routines, I'm like, I'm unstoppable. And the final tip here is to commit to radical self-belief. So ultimately, breaking free from playing small is about trusting yourself, right? it's important to make that decision that you're done waiting, you're done doubting, and you're here to own your power fully, to shine your light. Like, you are capable, you are allowed, it is safe to. So, what does radical self-belief look like for you? So for me, radical self-belief in sharing is me like recognizing today, hey, the idea and that flow for that podcast that you've been intending to create for the entire month of January is coming through now. So I just put myself into a quiet space, got all my podcast equipment set up, and I was like, we're going for it. Right? Like, I radically was like, I'm done waiting. Like, the energy is here, it's coming through, and I'm going to show up for myself fully. So I hope this message inspired you guys. Please let me know if it did. I love when you reach out to me on Instagram. And if you're interested in really stepping into a year of great potential when it comes to working for yourself, being your own boss, transforming a hobby into a business, or monetizing your gifts or skills, I'm hosting a masterclass this Friday, February 7th, called The Rich Life. And I'm going to be sharing about my journey as a digital entrepreneur, kind of lifting the curtain, sharing you about what's been behind the scenes the last 10 years in ways, answering any questions you guys have, and just let you know what it means to be your own boss and inspire you about new potentials. I absolutely love doing masterclasses with all of you because there's just such a powerful energy to it, and it's so fun to connect live. So if you can make it, I would love for you to be there. The opt-in will be in the description box below. And if you can't make it, there is a replay that I will be sending to you. So if you feel inspired about tapping into potential, if it comes to entrepreneurship, or like I said, just making money online, creating more freedom for yourself, then join me. I would love to see you there. And yeah, anyways, this concludes my first podcast of 2025, and I'm super excited to share more with you guys as the journey unfolds. So sending you lots of love and happy New Year.